Welcome to the second out of 3 episodes of 10 Years of C64 Gaming Part 4, covering year 1985. I've done my intro in the first one, so without further ado, let's get on with it. Hardball is the first infamous series of baseball simulation games, also arguably the best baseball title on C64, and one that originated on the system before being ported to other machines. Let the fact that within 4 years that it sold over 500,000 units on C64 alone speak for its quality. Which by today's standards may not be a lot, but in the 80s, even late 80s, it was a huge hit. Bad pun intended. The game can be enjoyed by 1 or 2 players. During pitching, one of 4 cardinal directions is used along with fire button to choose a pitch and then again to aim. The same directions are used to aim the swing when batting, and guess what? The very same are used for fielding to choose to which base the ball should be thrown rather than directly aiming the ball somewhere. Which all makes the controls incredibly easy to understand and master and gameplay hella fun. And I realize that I'm probably the last person walking the earth using hella, but I like it and I will until I die. Hardball was one of the first games to incorporate the view from the pitcher's perspective, same as in MLB broadcast, and it was a trend that was soon followed by all games in the genre. Heart of Africa is an unofficial follow-up to 7 Cities of Gold. It uses the same engine and is very similar in its graphical presentation. It's 1890 and famous explorer Mr. Prim disappeared in mysterious circumstances in Africa, leaving his riches to the one who finds the legendary Heart of Africa before 1895. And to do that you'll have to gain sympathies of the tribes of the 5 regions of the continent. They will direct you to smaller treasures and will give you hints towards finding the location of the tomb of the pharaoh, where supposedly the big one is. In every region there are different most valuable items in different spots, so you'll need to travel the continent several times before you'll figure out the location of the tomb. Cities and villages hold various buildings, and you'll need to visit those often not only to purchase necessary gear and to sell riches, but also to save the game. It's an unusual game and quite a bit different than 7 Cities of Gold was, despite using the same engine. Sure, there are some similar elements here and there, but it stands on its own legs and presents its own unique story and gameplay. If you like adventure games with some strategic elements, this one's definitely worth your time. Let me start by saying that Hero of the Golden Talisman is a game I loved as a kid, and then completely forgot about it, and for over 30 years it never crossed my mind. But now, as I was working on this video, I found it, and I'm super hyped, because I will have to give it a go when I get a day or 2 of work in a couple of months. Hero of Golden Talisman is an early example of Metroidvania style of gameplay, even though it preceded both titles genre took name from. Story-wise, an evil wizard cursed your hometown, and the only way to lift the curse is to find and assemble 5 pieces of the Golden Talisman, which the wizard has hidden in his lair. Said lair is a side-scrolling maze spanning impressive 512 screens, which I don't have to add, is massive for the time. So you run, jump, swim underwater and climb as expected, but you also shoot the enemies despite the game cover clearly showing our hero punching them. Unless his fists are so darn powerful that they break the sound barrier, sending the shockwaves as shots. Who knows? Game design of the 80s was something else after all. And I don't mean it in a bad way. Along the way you'll come across various useful items, 5 of which you can carry for later use, and they can be keys, ropes, lamps for dark areas or flags that improve your weapon among others. Your weapon, so your fist. Whatever. The minimap in the lower left indicates which rooms have not been visited and alerts to the presence of items within given room. Upon release the game did not gain too great reviews from Gaming Max, but personally I had more fun with it than with many more bigger budget titles that released on the system. This one, same as the title suggests, is golden, so do yourself a favor and try it out. Hypersports is another of those joystick-breaking multi-event sports games and a successor to Track and Field. This time, however, sadly the devs opted for 2 players maximum, which in my opinion is serious overlooking of game's multiplayer potential. Each of the 6 disciplines requires you to qualify first before you can compete, and they are 100-meter freestyle swimming, skeet shooting, gymnastics, archery, triple jump and weightlifting. Hypersports is a conversion from the arcades, omitting pole vault present in the original. While I always enjoyed multi-event games in multiplayer among friends, having the mode limited to just 2 folks cost Hypersports points in my books. And also, if I'm to be honest, I preferred every single sports game from a year prior's video to this. But that's me, and it shouldn't influence your opinion about it. Especially that the game's not that bad in the end. This is where I was supposed to talk about how smooth Karateka's animations were, how simple and plain but clear and decent the graphics were, and how cinematically it felt with you alone against hundreds of martial art fighters on a quest to save the Princess Mariko. I would mention that the intro animation, while simple, was climatic and gave off that Bruce Lee movie vibe. But I'm not gonna say any of that, at least not the way I was planning to, because it seems I totally forgot how ungodly slow the game was on C64. And there is no reason for that really, as there are more demanding, better looking games on the system, and those are usually very smooth. And yet this drags. It looks as if it was ported from another system without any care or attention put to it. And for that, I don't care about it too much, and it's here only for sentimental and historical purposes. I wanted to like it, I really did, but it just fails so hard I can't. Perhaps you do, but after seeing ports to other systems, I'm just disappointed. Karateka was a game I wanted to like, but couldn't. Kung Fu Master on the other hand is a game I didn't think I would, but I actually did like. Odd how life is sometimes, right? Kung Fu Master is also a port from the arcades, but this time it's given due justice and it's faithful to the source material, for better or worse. While it's single playing only and makes you rush to be successful, Kung Fu Master ends up being surprisingly fun. It features 5 levels with an end boss at the end of each, and after completing the last, the game starts from the first stage, just at the higher difficulty. It's fast and frantic by design, throwing heaps of enemies at you for quick disposal, and while most are removed with just one kick, knife throwers require 2. Bosses are all different and demand unique approach, which is a fun way to culminate the level that they spawned on. Kung Fu Master was never supposed to be a standard walking beat-em-up or a versus fighting game, it's its own thing, and what it aims to do does well, proving that sometimes doing your own thing is better than following well-known ideas. Now, saying all that, I don't mean that Kung Fu Master is simple, cause it's not. And often if you don't keep your pace, the enemies may overwhelm you, and if they grab you, your energy will keep draining hella fast and you'll basically done. It's not a game for everyone. Personally, I see myself coming to it for a game or two every decade or so, but I realize some may want to complete it more often. Little Computer People was a title unlike any other, at least back in the day. For all intents and purposes, it can be considered the Sims of 1980s. The game has one screen showing side view of the inside of an empty 3-story house, and after a while a person will move in. Said person will go about their day, cooking, watching TV or doing various other things, and occasionally will initiate interaction with a player, talking about their needs or feelings. While it's pretty limited, a player can also interact with the person by typing in basic commands or playing games with them. It may have not been as advanced or sandboxy as The Sims were, feeling more like an advanced aquarium or a Tamagotchi, but for the time when no one heard of anything similar before, it was a breath of fresh air and a subject of many conversations. In Mad Doctor you play as, well, Mad Doctor, who in the footsteps of fictional Dr. Frankenstein aims to animate human being built out of corpse parts. Now, if that was not a great subject for the game for the kids in the 80s, I don't know what is. Today it would get plastered with so many different ratings, hardly anyone would be able to play it. Anyway, the game map is composed out of 6 interconnected by paths and underground passages locations, and you have to transport enough corpses to your lab in the castle to combine various pieces into your soon-to-be animated monstrosity. You'll obviously need to assemble the body on something, so steel bolt would be necessary too. The parts have to come from different bodies and they need to be fresh and of good quality. Wow, the more I talk about it, the more gruesome it sounds. I mean, you could in theory use low quality parts and not harvest them from different, well, let's say donors, but the resulting creature would be aggressive. And you can either steal fresh bodies or, well, create fresh bodies out of the villagers. You know, psycho killer style. In time, this will cause hostility towards you and the villagers may even attack you on sight. So it's best to go about your business at night. To complete the resurrection, you also need carbolic acid for disinfection and sedative to keep the reanimated creature under control. When you have everything, you need to move it to the mystical stone circle, where lightning will give it life. If you have a metal kite that I forgot to mention earlier on, that is. Still, I now realize why we have game ratings today. It's an odd game and just for the sake of being so weird and so dark, it's worthy of being here. Oh, and Mad Doctor is an exclusive for C64, I thought that may be worth mentioning. Mail Order Monsters is another unusual title that I cannot for the life of me assign a genre to. It's basically build your own monster and then send it out to fight other monsters. You can choose between 12 different types, Tyro, Hominid, Arachnid, Worm, Wasp, Bronto and Squid among others, and then you get to select between 11 different body enhancements like Tentacles, Sting and Fiery Breath to name a few. Finally, you can equip your creature with an additional weapon, for instance rifle, laser gun or flamethrower, and yeah, I know it sounds weird. Every one of those enhancements and upgrades costs money, and to get more you have to win battles, so you can sort of work on your creature between them, adding bits and pieces to create the ultimate destruction-causing behemoth. Fights are similar to those in Archon, but may have different winning conditions like killing all other monsters, capturing the flag, or killing more small hordlings than your opponent does. The game features 3 difficulty levels, which are also different game modes. Beginner lets you pick pre-created monster and start playing. Intermediate gives you some money up front to create your own and enhance it. And Tournament mode is more of a career, where you can have more than one monster and sort of manage them. Mail order monsters is another of those really creative ideas that sadly never got a proper modern remake. Mandragore is a fantasy role-playing game. The king, ruler of the kingdom, is killed in an accident, and evil Yesod took over control and began his reign of tyranny. And you as a hero, to save the land, have to lead a group of 4 pre-made or your own characters on a quest to get rid of Yesod. In character creation there are 5 races to choose from: dwarf, elf, half-orc, hobbit and humans. 6 professions of warrior, ranger, magician, sage, thief and wanderer, and they're defined by 6 characteristics: constitution, strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity and aspect. On your travels you'll visit 9 castles, each of which contains problems and clues that will be useful later in the game. You'll battle various monsters, trade in villages and develop your character's skills. Characters move on the map as a single unit and are only ever treated as singular heroes during combat, in which commands are issued in text using abbreviations, which while not very difficult will take a little while to get used to and memorize. Not gonna lie, despite my love for the RPG genre, I've never played Mandragore, and all I've said here is based on things I could learn about it online. So I can't recommend or suggest avoiding it really. It had pretty solid scores wherever it was reviewed, and that's why it's here, but you'll have to make your own mind about it. The Master of Magic is a role-playing game that probably has the best music out of all role-playing games on C64, as it was composed by the man himself, the legendary Rob Hubbard. Story-wise, while traveling the caves you are dragged through a pool of water by the hand of Telric, a mysterious Master of Magic. He will only allow you to return home if you can help him by recovering the Amulet of Immortality. Now, my question is, if he has such huge power that he can kidnap you over a distance and deliver, let's say, 60-80 kg sack of meat in one piece, can he not do the same with a small amulet that's probably no more than an ounce or so? Well, if he could, we wouldn't have a game now, would we? Anyway, he teaches you 4 useful spells: Magic Missile to attack creatures, a wide radius burn spell, Drain energy spell and a magical shield, and sends you on your way. As you search for the amulet you'll find various other pieces of gear, mainly weapons and potions, and these can be collected and used. You also tackle different monsters, with vampires, hellhounds and orcs being just a few of them. If you're a fan of the genre, Master of Magic may definitely be worth checking out. Monty is on the run from authorities and he must leave England through English Channel and head to freedom to Europe. As you start the game you pick 5 items out of 21 that will be a part of your freedom kit, and you have to collect them to complete the game. These have to be chosen correctly, which may require trial and error and playing the game quite a few times, as they will be required in completing some of the puzzles. As you go about it you'll find other items that can prove useful in completing the game, that end up with Monty boarding the ferry to France. Anyway, Monty on the Run is a flick-screen platformer with some puzzle elements that originated on ZX Spectrum and was ported to other systems later. And it shows, as while the game is incredibly fun and playable, clearly no care was put to using any of C64's specialized hardware, and there's no scrolling, no multicolored graphics and only single color sprites. In short, it's a very good game, only short of being great because of complete lack of extra care given during porting. C64's conversion of Mr. Do is near arcade perfect, given the limitations of the system that is, which is not something that could be said about dozens upon dozens of other conversions. The objective of Mr. Do is to score as many points as possible by digging tunnels through the ground and collecting cherries. Cherries are spread around the level in groups of 8, and collecting all 8 from a single group without stopping awards bonus points. Mr. Do is constantly chased by so-called creeps that aim to catch him, and when they do, he loses one of his lives. The level is completed either when all cherries are collected, when all creeps are destroyed, when word extra signifying an extra life is spelled, or when a diamond is found. Mr. Do can defeat creeps by either dropping apples on them or hitting them with his bouncing ball. After each use, however, the delay after bouncing ball is refreshed and ready for next use extends, so it's best to utilize apples first. Every 5000 points an alpha monster appears carrying a letter, and when he's destroyed the letter is added to your collection. When you gather enough to form extra, as mentioned earlier on, you'll score an additional life. Mr. Do is not an easy game, and no wonder as it came from the arcades, but despite that it's really fun and I enjoy a play session of it once in a while. Notes of Yesod is a flick-screen platformer ported from ZX Spectrum, and while it's little enhanced, it still feels a lot like a Spectrum game. Meaning there's no scrolling or colorful sprites, which is always such when talking about C64 games, as the system was capable of both. Anyway, you're Charlie and you have to venture into the caverns below the surface of the moon to retrieve 8 colored crystals that will help you find the monolith that needs to be destroyed. It is crucial, however, to find a lunar mole before venturing into the caves, as it can chew through the walls inside it and will reveal new areas of the maze. Charlie will meet two kinds of enemies, or monsters if you will. Some will be harmful, reducing his strength, and others will not, but will bounce him around, so while not deadly per se, they're annoying as F. If you like arcade games, Notes of Yesod is not bad and may be your cup of tea. I certainly remember enjoying it quite a bit. Paradroid is top-down view, multi-scrolling shoot-em-up with puzzle elements. Your objective is to clear a fleet of starships of enemy robots by either destroying them or taking them over via minigame. The game is set on a huge spaceship that consists of numerous rooms and levels, each populated by hostiles. Each droid, including the one you control, is represented by a circle around a 3-digit number, which coincidentally sorta, but not really, but kinda, not directly, but more or less, represents droid's power. If you didn't understand anything from that fit of craziness I was under, in short, the bigger the number, the stronger the enemy. There are overall 24 different kinds of droids in 10 classes, and taking over one requires completing a minigame involving circuit diagrams and logic gates. When you take a droid over, you have to supply more power to its circuits than it does itself before the time runs out. And this is where the logic gates come in handy, as otherwise lower level droid could never take on the higher one. When you take control of a droid, the one you were controlling before is instantly destroyed. The stronger one you control, the stronger effectively you are. I know that all of it sounds a bit odd, but it's easier done than said in this particular case. So it would be easier for you to just give Paradroid a go than listen to me trying to articulate its inner mechanics in just a few short sentences. But, and that's most important here, it's a really good game, worth your time, believe me. Project Space Station is one of the most ambitious games of the whole 8-bit era. You're cast in a role of a NASA administrator who is in charge of designing, building and maintaining a space station, all within the allotted time of just 15 years, during which you'll plan shuttle launches, you'll hire personnel, manage the budget, conduct research, develop and obviously build the titular space station. The game starts in the planning phase, which is the only one that's not timed and where you allocate funds to various budget items like crew selection, modules and R&D. Then you have to pick a crew, all of which are described by their own unique set of skills and characteristics, and even more so, compatibility level with their co-workers. Then you purchase equipment and modules like labs or solar arrays, and schedule launches of one of two available shuttles. And that, my dear viewers, is just me scratching the surface of a huge shielded steel shuttle's chassis with my bare nails. I may have mentioned with other games that it's difficult to describe their particularities in detail in as short time as it's allotted per game, but while it really was tough with those, with Project Space Station it's literally impossible without being overly generalizing. So to summarize, you have 15 years to complete the project and you're responsible for everything, from designing, planning, hiring, supplies, launches to eventual construction. Project Space Station feels at times more like a tool for NASA employees to train on rather than the game, but by God is it fun. Racing Distraction Set is a split-screen isometric view racer for 1 or 2 players. There's 50 built-in tracks in the game and 5 vehicles to choose from: Beetle, Stock Car, Dirt Bike, Porsche and Lunar Lander. Each car has its own characteristic and you can also choose tires and engine size based on the track that you'll race on. You may also equip it with landmines and oil slicks to dispose of those pesky opponents. But easily the best feature of Racing Distraction Set is a built-in level editor. It allows for modifying of existing tracks and creation of completely new ones. You can create a track layout, choose a surface and set a gravity profile. All this makes the game near infinitely playable, especially if you have someone to race against. I don't these days, so yeah, no fun for me. Rags to Riches is both fun to play and kinda heavy subject-wise, as it could be called a bum simulator, at least in its initial part. Anyway, you're a homeless vagrant and you have to survive on the streets of a modern city. You start with close to nothing and have to save up enough to get a haircut, secure some odd jobs here and there, finally attend high school and then college to eventually become a millionaire. So at the very least, it's a story with a possible happy end. You get money initially by selling bottles, finding it scattered around the streets in change and an odd dollar bill here and there, and later on through employment. The city is divided into 4 districts and you can travel between them using the subway. There's an alcohol level, food/rest, and 2 education meters that describe your character. And when alcohol and food rest levels reach 0, you die, and the game ends. Food can be purchased at restaurants, convenience stores, fast food outlets, and obtained freely at soup kitchen. Drinking alcohol is an inexpensive means of staying alive, but you cannot get a job when affected. Robbers and IRS agents are after your money, and police can arrest you for not having a fresh haircut. And your hair regrows every 5 days. So keep that in mind. Each part of the city has its own purpose. South is for your initial survivor where you start the game, in West you can get a haircut and find a job, East is mainly for educational purposes, and North for making your money grow. Rags to Riches is an interesting title and one worth a look if you enjoy games that are really unique. Don't let the simple graphics fool you. If you have someone to race against, Rally Speedway is as good as they get, and it's easily the one versus racer I had most fun with on my C64. Nothing even came close. You could say that it's a deathmatch of racing games, and you're not far off in this assessment. Two cars are placed next to each other on a track and have to race. Duh! The game is not split screen though, and you race on the same one. Whenever one player gets ahead of another by a distance greater than the screen size, be it through better driving or having the other one crash, the loser gets a penalty, both cars are reset and the game continues. Both players can try to push each other off the track, which makes the game really exciting, and watching that little opposing driver on fire roll out from a wreck is hella fun. The game comes pre-built with 6 different tracks, and you can set up quite a lot of pre-race options like type of road surfaces, maximum car speeds, pace of acceleration and whether the cars can be destroyed or not. And choosing the latter is a mistake, believe me. It's only fun when cars get totaled. Cherry on top of this already sticky sweet pie is a built-in track editor extending the life of Rally Speedway infinitely. It is bar none my favorite versus racer on C64, and if you have someone else with you who enjoys these, skip all other games we spoke about in this video so far and start with this one. You'll both love it. Reach for the Stars is space team strategy game for 1 to 4 players, often considered to be earliest commercially published example of the 4X genre. So you'll explore far-off unknown systems, expand your empire establishing new colonies, exploit the planets for resources, and build large and powerful fleets to exterminate any and all opponents. The game is played in turns, and each is divided into 2 phases, development and movement. In development phase you work on planetary production, assigning productions to each of the planets under your control, and in movement phase you can send ships to other star systems to either explore, colonize or conquer. At the beginning of the game you have very limited funds and have to decide how to invest them, be it in technology, ships or environmental upgrades. And this decision alone, when playing against other people, can make or break your game, based on what they do and how they progress their space nations. Ships come in 3 kinds: scouts, which are fast and cheap and are used for exploration, they cannot fight or carry colonists however. Transports incapable of fighting but can carry colonists. And finally warships that can't carry colonists but can raise hell all around the space. Reach for the Stars is one of the best C64 strategy games and one that is probably in the top 10 most replayable on the system, because of how different each game can turn out to be. As per usual, it's obviously best played with others and not against the CPU. This is the end, beautiful friend, the end of this episode, not the series or even part 4 of 10 years of C64 gaming covering year 1985. And the next, last episode in this part comes very soon, so subscribe not to miss it. If you liked the video, you know what to do. If you didn't, let me know in the comments below why. If you feel like helping me make the channel better, I'd appreciate Patreon sub or YouTube membership. But if you don't want to or can't do those, likes, subscribes and shares are great too. So, how good were the games in this episode, right? Couple of my absolute most favorite games on C64 were even here. And that's not it. The next one is going to be good too. Trust me. So, make sure to come back next week. For now though, this is all, so have a good one and I'll see you next time. Peace.